Cage-free layer production systems are becoming more common for shell eggs in the U.S. Within the next 10 years, there will be an estimated 43% shift to cage-free production. This video will provide viewers a brief overview of the daily operations and functions that occur within cage-free housing facilities. As you complete this training vignette, you as viewers will be walked through a fully operational aviary housing complex system. This will include a walkthrough of each of the various layer housing unit subtypes. For instance, you will see hens being housed, observe how hens are cared for, including feed and water delivery to hens, and then manure removal. Then see egg collection and environmental conditions and how they are controlled and monitored. You will see the daily operations at a poultry house and how personnel and equipment enter and exit the poultry house and move through the house performing daily operations, including the use of ladders or stairs within the houses. There is a glossary of terms which includes illustrations to help the viewer understand some of the common terms that are used by personnel working at the complex and in this video. There are a number of terms used to describe a layer housing unit depending on the level of the egg industry you are trying to describe. The first term is a complex, a group of buildings on the same site, which is probably the largest unit term used to describe a component of the production sector. Cage-free complexes will range in size, depending on their age, anywhere from 300,000 to 1.5 million hens. In cage-free housing, the poultry house can consist of pens to prevent piling, where the laying hens are housed. A flock is a term used to define all laying hens within one poultry house. A poultry house is defined in 21 Code of Federal Regulations, also known as CFR 118.3, as a building, other structure, or separate section within a structure used to house poultry. There may be 7 to 14 poultry houses on a complex and can hold anywhere from 50,000 to as many as 500,000 hens in each house. Some structures are comprised of more than one section containing poultry, therefore each separate section is considered a separate house. There are many details regarding commercial production, but there are 5 main aspects of cage-free production: the production systems used, housing, husbandry practices, flock health, and egg safety plan monitoring. Cage-free housing can provide a wire or slatted floor area with the feeder and watering device, typically a nipple waterer, and access to a floor litter substrate, typically pine wood shavings. Getting the pullets to the laying facility in an efficient and safe manner is vital. Regardless of the housing system, pullets and hens must be handled in a manner consistent with good animal welfare. Transport in rolling racks or coops minimizes the stress on the birds and gets them close to the aviary unit for ease of housing. There are best handling practices for housing hens in aviaries. Procured pullets must be raised under SE monitored conditions and proper documentation must be retained for each flock. These records are subject to FDA review during inspection. The evolution of the egg industry into what we know today began with egg processors trying to consolidate their egg supply. To do this, they contracted egg producers to produce only for their processing plant. It is a model still used today, but it was the first step in consolidation for the egg industry. The contract producers typically had houses of older design with farms of 20,000 to 200,000 hens. The term offline refers to production facilities that are not located on the same premises as the processing plant. A shell egg processing plant is a facility that processes shell eggs for the table egg market as defined in 21 CFR 118.3. Processing includes washing, grading, and packing for the table egg market. Egg grading is a service provided by USDA Agriculture Marketing Service on a voluntary fee-for-service basis. The egg grading services allows for the use of the grade shield that identifies the eggs as having been examined and certified by a USDA grader for the quality indicated. There are 3 egg grades: AA or AA, A, and B. Grade AA eggs are nearly perfect. The brief description of offline egg facilities is as follows. Eggs are produced in cage-free facilities located entirely separate from the grading and processing plant. At the production farms, the eggs are farm-packed on racks or on pallets. Then, the eggs are refrigerated in accordance with 21 CFR 118.4 that states, eggs must be held at or below 45 degrees Fahrenheit beginning 36 hours after the time of lay. This mitigates the potential for pathogens to grow on the shell or contents. They are transported in a refrigerated transport truck 2 to 3 times each week to the plant. When the eggs arrive at the processing facility, they are placed in a pre-processing cooler. Then, prior to processing, the eggs are allowed to temper to ambient room temperature. Tempering allows the egg to warm slightly so that when it is washed at 90 degrees Fahrenheit, or 20 degrees warmer than the warmest egg, thermal checks will not be caused by the temperature differences. Once they are packaged, they return to a 45-degree Fahrenheit cooler prior to delivery to the grocer or distributor. This means eggs can be handled up to 3 additional times prior to packaging for retail sales. The large production complexes became more prevalent, and the older facilities, typically contract production, became obsolete as processors saw the advantage of integrating the grading and processing plants with the production houses. These became known as inline facilities. The move toward cage-free production has resulted in the individual poultry houses housing 50,000 to 500,000 hens per house, and complexes that hold 300,000 to 1.5 million hens. Inline egg facilities are named as such because the eggs are transported on egg conveyors directly from the production house to the grading and processing plant. This means that the eggs are processed and packaged typically within 24 to 36 hours of being laid by the hen. The advantages of inline facilities are that the eggs are handled less, and temperature differences between the egg and the wash water are minimal, so there will be fewer thermal checks. The eggs are washed, graded, and packaged and moved directly to the post-processing cooler or delivery truck. The operations within poultry houses will vary from fully automated to total hand-cared, depending on the hen numbers in the house or flock. However, regardless of the flock size, each of these aspects are part of the daily operations. They include egg collection, feeding, management of the environment temperature and ventilation, manure management, observation of the hens, removal of mortalities, along with rodent, fly, and other pest control operations that occur within the poultry houses. In new facilities, equipment manufacturers have integrated technology into the production processing system. Today, feed, water, and eggs are integrated into the production equipment, and control is through computer control systems. In addition, sensors within the production system monitor electrical demand and usage information, which provides feedback to the maintenance group by identifying motors that may be wearing out. The automated environmental control systems allow for ventilation and lighting by house from the central computer control. If there are conditions that fall outside the normal range, the alarm system will notify the appropriate individuals and pinpoint the abnormality. Automation minimizes the traffic of equipment and personnel entering and leaving buildings and premises. However, there is still movement of personnel and equipment which must be done in a manner consistent with the company's biosecurity protocols. This may include clothing changes and shower-in, shower-out systems, which are great biosecurity measures to implement. However, the regulation does not specifically require clothing changes and shower-in, shower-out systems. The regulation requires the firm to maintain practices that will protect against cross-contamination when persons and equipment move among poultry houses. In cage-free houses, the eggs will roll onto an egg tray with a belt which directs the egg to an automated egg collection system of egg belts, elevators, or de-escalators depending on the cage-free housing. In smaller flocks, the egg belt will bring the eggs to a central collection point for hand collection. The ventilation of layer houses uses a negative static pressure ventilation system. This means that the fans are exhausting more air than the intake vents are allowing in. This results in the pressurized air entering the building to expand, resulting in air mixing and better distribution of the cooler air. Ventilation controls temperature and air quality and is accomplished using different methods. Temperature control in the poultry house is important to keep the hens as comfortable as possible. The thermal neutral zone, or TNZ, for layers is 55 degrees to 75 degrees Fahrenheit, or 13 degrees to 24 degrees Celsius. This is the temperature range at which the hens will be able to maintain their homeostatic state. Commercial producers tend to maintain the laying hens environment at the upper end of the TNZ, or the effective thermal neutral zone, or ETNZ, which is 45 degrees to 85 degrees Fahrenheit, or 7 degrees to 29 degrees Celsius. At these higher temperatures, there is a need for diet alteration by increasing the nutrient density of the hens' diets. This is needed because the hens will alter their feed intake due to the metabolic changes. As temperatures increase, the hen's basic metabolic rate declines because the hens do not need to produce metabolic heat to maintain their body temperature. This improves the feed efficiency. However, as temperatures increase past the upper limit of the ETNZ, past 86 degrees Fahrenheit or 30 degrees Celsius, a number of behaviors and metabolic changes result in negative production. Water consumption increases, which contributes to a decrease in feed consumption, and reduced feed consumption reduces calcium intake, which reduces shell quality. Components of the housing structure will enhance the temperature control. The structural materials, along with the insulation, can have a great influence on the reduction in radiant heat gain. The total house flock population will also influence the house temperature. Keep in mind that 300,000 hens will produce about 35 BTU of heat each hour per hen. In the winter, this is an advantage for maintaining the house temperature, but in the summer heat, the added 10.5 mil BTU can become a problem. Most poultry houses utilize a negative static pressure ventilation system with perimeter intake vents. This means the ventilation fans are actually pulling more air out of the house than the intake vents will allow in. In the summer, this results in a tremendous volume of air. The high air volume during summer at an outside ambient temperature of 95 degrees Fahrenheit means the ventilation rate is 354 to 496 cubic feet per hen per hour. At this velocity, two things occur. First, the velocity of the air across the hen's body results in a wind chilling effect on the hen. Second, as the air enters the negative static pressure environment, it expands rapidly, which lowers the air's temperature and creates a swirling motion that allows the air to distribute across the building, picking up added heat and dust as it is drawn towards the ventilation exhaust fan. Winter ventilation objectives are the opposite of those in the summer. In the winter, the goal is to retain the BTUs generated by the hens in order to maintain in-house temperatures at the upper end of the ETNZ. The ventilation is still a negative static pressure, but the goal is to mix the air slowly to eliminate cold drafts and exhaust from the house at a very low velocity. The low air volume at -4 degrees Fahrenheit outside ambient temperature will be at 36 to 106 cubic feet per hen per hour. Both the summer and winter ventilation systems have been developed to control the air quality. The two quality components we deal with are noxious gases and dust particulate levels. The two noxious gases are ammonia and hydrogen sulfide. Ammonia is the primary gas. High levels will reduce hen performance and increase disease susceptibility, with extremely high levels causing ammonia blindness in the hens. Hydrogen sulfide is a poisonous gas. Fortunately, it is produced at extremely low levels in dry manure systems. It has the potential to reach higher levels in the liquid manure systems. Cage-free poultry houses have the highest dust particulate levels of any livestock production facility. The dust is composed of feed dust, skin dander, feather particulate, and even fecal particles. In poultry houses, tunnel ventilation is designed to pull air from the center of the building toward each end. The inlets are associated with cool cells, which provide some evaporative cooling in hot seasons. Drinker devices today are nipples with catch cups, 360-degree nipples, or drinking cups which have water valve triggers inside to release water. Husbandry refers to the controlled management and production of domestic animals. Three components of husbandry are maintaining flock health, lighting programs, and molting hens. Flock health is composed of programs designed to protect hens from disease and biological threats from outside the production unit. Laying hens need a vaccine booster for Newcastle disease and bronchitis. This booster immunization is typically administered about a month after the flock has completed the molt. A vaccination booster is typically not given to a single production cycle flock. Environmental monitoring for Salmonella enteritidis is done at 40 to 45 weeks of age and 4 to 6 weeks after each molt. Lighting programs are important for laying hens. Lighting stimulates sexual maturity and the onset of egg production. The lighting programs used will vary depending on the house type, season, geographic location of the poultry complex, and the laying hen strain. The variations to the lighting programs can be very specific, but certain aspects are common to all lighting programs. The initial day length should match that from the pullet house when the birds are moved to the laying house. Light intensity helps control flock activity and minimizes feather pecking, which can lead to cannibalism. Light intensities are maintained at levels ranging from a 0.5-foot candle to 1-foot candle or 5 to 10 lux. Workers find it difficult to conduct inspections and find mortalities in this light intensity, so during periods where work is being conducted in the poultry house, work lighting is turned on. The day length is another aspect of lighting used to manage the flock. The sexual maturity or onset of lay can be delayed by maintaining the day length of less than 12 hours of light. Pullets come into the laying house receiving less than 12 hours of light to minimize eggs produced prior to and during the move from the pullet to the laying house. Once the birds have been housed in the laying facility, the day length is gradually increased to stimulate the ovary and oviduct development. Breeders today want at least a 10-week period where lighting is increased to 16 hours of daylight, especially for single-cycle flocks. Breeders recommend that light stimulation be delayed to 16 weeks so that by 17 weeks the birds are exposed to 11 hours of light. Then gradually increase the day length by a half hour each week for 14 weeks or until 16 hours of day length is provided. Molting is a husbandry management tool used by the egg industry to extend the productive life of a flock. Wild AVN species molt naturally at the end of a seasonal breeding period. Naturally occurring molts coincide with a period of voluntary anorexia, reproductive quiescence, and shedding and replacement of feathers. The objectives of the molt include cessation of production quickly, low mortality, easy, inexpensive, improved egg production after the molt, and egg quality. Today, only non-anorexic molt programs are allowed in the egg industry. The average age to molt in the U.S. is 69 weeks of age. The programs consist of monitoring body weight loss, 20 to 25%, reducing day length to 8 to 9 hours, and providing a body maintenance feed, which can be a single ingredient or a body maintenance diet. Both are balanced for vitamins and minerals for a non-producing hen. Initial weight loss is rapid. 5 to 10% of the weight loss is due to eggs laid. 5 to 6% is due to regression of the reproductive system, and 1 to 2% due to loss of glycogen stores. Egg production stops after 5 to 8 days, with 3 to 5 marketable eggs being produced during this time period. Mortality during the molt period should be low, around 1 to 3%. Molting does cause a level of stress on the laying hen that is above what the hen experiences at this age. Stress can trigger a shedding of Salmonella enteritidis organisms in the feces of the hen, resulting in a positive environmental test. This is why the egg safety plan requires an environmental test 4 to 6 weeks post-molt. Each company must deal with waste handling. Manure is removed from the production environment and placed into a storage facility where it may be composted. The storage facility will be a holding location until the end product, manure or compost, can be land applied. Flock and house records need to be kept. Most of the production data is maintained by the Computer Environmental Control System, but records of flock observations related to lighting, vaccinations, and feed changes need to be entered into a flock history. Spent fowl disposal has been handled by different methods based on the health status of the flock, economic incentives, availability of a market to sell them to, or simply a need to depopulate in order to stay on the flock replacement schedule. Regardless of the disposal method, it all begins with humane handling and proper removal of the hens from the production cage. Selling the hens, sometimes called spent fowl, for meat is the ideal method of disposal. Depending on the market, this could be a cost center, meaning the birds cover transport costs for a break-even scenario. The other method is to euthanize the flock and take the fowl carcasses to a renderer. This needs to be conducted efficiently and quickly to minimize the potential purification of the carcasses prior to rendering. In this case, the birds are typically euthanized in a modified atmosphere killing cart, which can handle up to 200 fowl at a time. The last method is to euthanize and then bury the carcasses. This is typically regulated by the state veterinary office and used in the case of disease outbreaks when the carcasses cannot go off premises. In many cases, this would be preceded by the composting of the carcasses to kill pathogens and accelerate decomposition of the soft tissue. This composting may take up to 2 weeks and does require equipment capable of turning the composting windrow. Kill carts are contained environments which are filled with CO2, and the birds are placed into the container through a trap door. The birds are euthanized in minutes. Once the poultry house has been depopulated, the first step of cleanup is the removal of organic material, such as dust, feathers, feed, and manure. Some producers with large production houses may only schedule a dry cleaning prior to housing. This is a reasonable approach provided the environment of the previous flock tested negative for Salmonella enteritidis. If the flock did test positive, the entire building will need to be cleaned and disinfected before new laying hens are added to the house. The washing of the building is done using a pressure washing system and detergents. The building is washed from outside to inside and top to bottom, with the last step being the removal of the final organic material and washing the pit area. The building should dry, then be sprayed completely with an approved sanitizer. After the building has been sanitized, it should be allowed to dry again. Every complex should have emergency plans in place for possible disasters. Natural disasters can be associated with the outbreak of a reportable disease or one that requires euthanizing the entire flock. Other potential natural disasters include severe thunderstorms with tornadoes, snowstorms, or hurricanes. Other problems are related to power transmission, such as a traffic accident taking out a major power line, or transformers burning out or shutting down for various reasons. Last but not least is the man-made disaster of a break-in or subversion of the production operation by individuals from animal rights or liberation groups who infiltrate the workforce.